who were you referring to? Which Americans do you think are stupid?
The people, particularly a lot of the people who don't realize what they're doing. And all you have to do is look at what's happened since, the Great Society programs of Lyndon Johnson. We've spent $19 trillion, and we have 10 times more people on food stamps, more people in poverty. You have to be kind of stupid to look at that and not realize that that's a failure and to say, we just didn't do enough of it. That's what I call stupid.
And that's referring to a quote that he said back in 2014 that many Americans are stupid, but also a great video.
So it was a great video. He's making the pretend point that Medicare was a failure. Mm-hmm. So Medicare, also part of the Great Society, not a failure. Medicare took, let's remember that before Medicare, when you retired from your job, you didn't have health care, and 33% of senior citizens lived in poverty. 10 years after Medicare, it dropped down to 11%. Hugely successful social program. Everybody loves Medicare. We should have Medicare for all. In fact, it's not only the most popular health plan in the country, it's also the most efficient healthcare plan in the country, Medicare. So he's lying about this. And nobody ever says, hey, we spent $6 trillion on the Iraq and Afghanistan war. We've been doing it for 14 years. And what do we got? It's worse than ever. Nobody ever says that. Hey, so let's just do more of it. This is what we're frickin' doing. We actually have good results from the social programs from LBJ. But because we have a corporate media, they're allowed to lie about it and say that Social Security is going to be defunct in 7 years and go back, which none of that stuff is true. Social Security, Medicare, two hugely successful social programs. They do a lot of they help bring the poverty levels down. They're hugely successful. So that's all bullshit. And I just want to see a reporter once push back when they say that stuff.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting that they are happy to call him out on his personal lies, but they will never call him out on his policy lies?
Right. Yeah,
exactly.
Right, because
what is that, Cenk? What is that?
Well, because the personal stuff is safe, right? You don't get accused of liberal media bias if you find out he really didn't get a scholarship to West Point, right?
Yes.
But if you say, hey, wait a minute, that's not true about Medicare. Oh, you're a liberal. You're biased. No, but it's a fact. I mean, the percentages of poverty is a fact. The percentage of how popular it is in the country, it's a fact. It's based on polling. All these things are facts. But they don't want to do that because then I'm going to anger people and I'm going to get pressure. No, I'm just going to stay neutral.
Yeah. Yeah, and they tried to do a little bit of that at the CNBC debate. Yes. They said, like a tax rate of 12, 13%, a flat tax rate like that you can't actually fund the government. They tried to just say a little bit of like, oh, by the way, you're living a fantasy with your tax plan. And they've been attacked every day since then as biased media. They shouldn't be allowed to hold any more debates.
Yeah, to have another debate. And this is what Cenk actually experienced firsthand. Hey, we want to get Ben Carson back. You can't take him on like that and point to all of these inconsistencies in his policies. You're going to have these same inconsistencies in others. There might be all kinds of code and verbiage that they throw in there instead of that. But that's another reason that they call Carson out on these personal things, but don't hang the heavy weight of ineffective policies, or as you say, lies, Jimmy. I mean, things that are really just not true about these policies. Don't hang that on Carson.
Yeah. All right. One last thing, because we're going to run short on time. I want to get to other stories. So one last thing on Ben Carson's lies. In his moment of conversion, he was around the age of 14, according to his descriptions. And so he does this violent thing. He goes in the bathroom, and he says he opens the book of Proverbs and finds a passage on the importance of controlling one's temper. First of all, he's got a Bible in the bathroom. That's interesting. Okay. And he happened to coincidentally turn to the one about temper. Now, again, everybody that knows Carson says he never had a temper, walked around with a pocket protector and was a kind of a nerd, which is a good thing, right? He's smart, cared about his grades from day one, right? But no, he had to invent a temper so that he can turn to Proverbs, find the part about the temper, right? And then he says, quote, Lord, despite what all the experts tell me, you can change me. You can free me forever from this destructive personality trait. Really? The experts were telling you things when you were 14?
Really? The experts
that you can't change.
He was a lost cause. They were telling him.
And at 14, he was constantly talking to the experts or hearing from the experts. He was following the television shows that were telling him about that had the experts.
That he'd quote the experts in his request to the Lord is impressive. I mean, he'd cite the experts.
So he was anti-science when he was 14, right? So that's what that is. That's also feeding into the narrative of fuck science and go to Jesus.
Right.
That's more of that.
He's a really bad liar.
So he's a sociopath, I think. So I'll make that because he lies so willy-nilly, and the fact that he's standing by that sugar pill that they were selling people that your body can't even break down, and he's a doctor and he knows that. The fact that he wouldn't push back against the lies about vaccinations. The guy is a complete charlatan. The guy's a complete sociopath. He doesn't care. And it takes a lot of time. It takes a good sociopath to be a popular public figure, and I think he's nailing it.
You know what? Actually, Jimmy, that brings up a really interesting point. So this book, Gifted Hands, that's now being discussed is actually from back in '96. He's got a new book out now that he's trying to shill for profit in the middle of running a campaign. And so then I went back and looked at all of his books, and I was like, wait a minute. The whole concept that this guy's one of the best neurosurgeons in the country might be fabricated.
I've been thinking.
Right? Oh. Because he's been writing book after book after book. He's his own best publicist. So he's been hyping himself up for decades, all the way back to the early 1990s. I'm such a great neurosurgeon. I've got gifted hands. I've got this. I'm the best. Look at me, yada, yada. It's a little cottage industry of making money from these books about hyping about what a great neurosurgeon he is. Now, look, to be fair, there are other experts who say he was a very good neurosurgeon. But like this idea that he was like one of the best neurosurgeons in the country, there's some chance it was a marketing ploy from Ben Carson, whose whole life is, now we find out, a bit of a marketing
He
ploy.
might not even have been a neurosurgeon.
Is he really black?
And separating twins, who can do that? I mean, that's impossible anyway.
Yeah. Could you imagine? It turns out he never did that.
It was a mole.
Like he's like two fingers were. He separated the fingers. Like it was like no big deal.
He didn't exactly separate them.
He separated them, but he sent them to separate summer camps. He didn't really.